Michelle Sabell, Arts and Culture Manager for the City of Richmond. And we have a wonderful program in Richmond called the Neighborhood Public Art Mini Grant Program. This is overseen by the Richmond Arts and Culture Commission. This year, one of the mini grants is called Merging Cultures Through the Arts. And this program works especially with students who are learning English. And one of the ways we get to them is through the arts.
I'm Lana Husser. I'm a resident of Richmond and an educator. I've spent many years teaching students content such as ESL, English Language Development, career development, and multimedia skills. What I've learned from my students is that they need to be passionate about what they're learning. They need to have a sincere, honest interest, and they need to be introduced to something new on a regular basis. It needs to be new and exciting. It needs to be fun. What's more fun than working with art? And what's more positive than producing something beautiful?
My name is Yulia Solovyova, and I'm a teacher of English language development at Lavonie Dijon Middle School in Richmond, California. I am an English learner myself. I am from Moscow, Russia. My students come from different countries. I have the students from Mexico and El Salvador, from Nicaragua and Guatemala. They speak almost no English, and we are learning. The West Control Coast Unified School District and the state in general do a lot to help English learners to master the language. However, the double block of English language development doesn't give any time or any chance for English learners to get their electives. And we have 7th and 8th graders who have no chance to draw, to do any art.
And one of the ways we get to them is through the arts.
The West Control Coast Unified School District and the state in general do a lot to help English learners to master the language. However, the double block of English language development doesn't give any time or any chance for English learners to get their electives. And we have 7th and 8th graders who have no chance to draw, to do any art.
The process is working with the artists, working with each other, improving English skills. And Lana Husser, who is guiding this whole project, is also doing outreach into the community and exposing the students to other artists.
The project allowed my students to experience everything, from painting to doing recycling art and mosaics, as well as talking, preparing oral presentations, and interpreting for other students. When we started the project, there was a lot of confusion on the students' part. They couldn't believe it that they will be actually doing something, not talking about art, but actually doing art.
They're really getting exposure to the arts in a way that in their regular classroom they would never have the opportunity to do.
My name is Cristian Munoz. I'm from Chile, and I'm an artist.
Christian was the first artist we invited to come into the ELD classroom. The students had no idea what to expect.
When they met local artist Cristian Munoz, they were thrilled. First of all, he speaks Spanish, and he was able to switch from English into Spanish.
When the students walked into the classroom on painting day, their room had been transformed. On every table were paintbrushes, palettes of paints of varying colors, and canvases.
The students were able to review the vocabulary, to try and touch different brushes, the foam brush, the thin brush, the wide or broad brush.
There's a very special technique or strategy that we use to introduce students to the language. It's known as total physical response. The teacher can say, hold up the big brush, show me the red paint, showing their new command of the vocabulary. And with every piece of art and with every activity, there is a very specific set of vocabulary words. Christian was the perfect model for introducing art to our students because he himself became an artist as a young teen.
For a long time I live in my country and I'm trying to be an artist. When I was around 14, 16 years old, somebody told me, hey, we have a group in Chile who is trying to make a mural. And I say, okay, maybe I can do something. And one day I step in front of the wall and we start making murals for around 5 years. When you work on the street, you can see a lot of people, normal people, regular people, and they say, hey, okay, this work is good, keep going. We work for the community. Now I'm here in Richmond and I had the beautiful opportunity to make art with kids. And I can feel now something different because they show me how simple is the life and how we can make something together. When the kids saw the airbrush, they get so excited about that.
They were given a clean canvas and they were there to create their own art.
They were able to follow Christian's directions as he instructed them to create their own landscape.
They have their own landscape in their mind. They not make like the California landscape. They bring their own landscape.
They were most excited about the fact that they would be able to take it home and to present it proudly to their parents. For many of them, it was the first finished art project in their lives. The students kept asking, what are we going to do next?
My name is Daoud Abdullah, and I am an artist. I do mosaics here in the city of Richmond. I teach mosaics and just love to do it.
He brought the cart filled with materials. One of the boxes had a beautiful sign in mosaics, "Art makes you smart."
Art has no language, and as I've always teach them all, art makes you smart. You can teach them anything and everything with the use of art. And mosaic art in particular, because there's so many pieces put together.
That was a beautiful lesson in all kind of sensory details. Not only they looked at tiles of different shapes, colors, and sizes, they were also able to touch the surface of the stepping stone to design and create their pattern. Then they touched and added with all kind of adhesive and grout the pieces of the mosaic, and they were so proud when the mosaic was finished.
They get to actually create mosaics with the artist. And all the while they're working with people who are trained in these things. So they learn new skills and they also learn how to communicate as they're learning those skills.
Once you get them started, that's the part that always takes a while. But once they get started, they don't stop. And then they just start working like little machines. Some of them did really intricate work, and then some of them did really big, organic looking things. And they all look good. Mosaics is one of the oldest art forms, going back, over 3000 BC, first using broken pots and plates. And they're still digging up mosaics. So they have a longevity. So these kids get to do something that will be around for a long time, and a stepping stone. They can bring their grandchildren to see these stones.
Two local artists, Marcy and Ricardo, came to the classroom and they brought all their skills. They were singers, they were storytellers, they were artists. And the students were exposed not only to the beautiful PowerPoint presentation about mask making, and the presentation covered the history of masks and masks from Japan to Africa, but also to the beautiful story, a legend from Guatemala, and songs that accompanied the story.
An important component of a lesson is the acquisition of new language, and there are various parts to it. One is sequencing language, so using first, second, last, next, all these words that are guiding you to go to the next step to progress in a project. They're instructional languages as well. There's also a huge body of descriptional adjectives, from knowing colors to shapes to face parts. We're also talking about a legend of the volcano, and so that has a whole body of vocabulary around it. Volcano, the animals in the jungle, the colors. All of these things are new words that the children are being introduced to in English, but also these words are being reinforced because we are working with them in Spanish as well. So they're understanding every concept from a visual and also from an auditory perspective.
When you take it off, this is already dry, and we can take it off, and then we're gonna have this. You can put horns, big nose, or curvy nose. To finish this, it's first smooth all the edges, and after that you can paint it different colors, whatever color you like. You can put feathers even.
You could see the students' personalities thriving through art.
It will pink, it will be purple. I am an artist, me too.
They were running around helping each other, making masks. They started decorating them with rhinestones and feathers, with different colors.
This is the most exciting art class I have ever been in. And not only is it an art class, it's an art class for students who are learning English through the arts. The colors, the excitement, the music, the exchange between the adult teachers and the student artists is just fabulous. You have a multicultural experience here, and their common thing is art, and they're learning English using art. This is fabulous.
Teachers were impressed not only with what were students doing as emerging artists, but by the questions they kept asking, by communication in English with the artists and other adults, and the way they were able to point and name the objects that were absolutely unknown to them a couple of days before. Our next artist was Lana Hassar. She came to our class with a tray full of beautiful roses, and her first question was, guess what is the material the roses are made of? And the students named everything from metal to leather. In fact, they were paper coffee cups from Starbucks. Not only it was a very exciting experience in recycling art, it was also a great opportunity to talk about the history of Richmond, to make the connection to the rich history of our beautiful city, to talk about war, World War II, Rosie the Riveter, and Rosie's, all women who worked in Richmond shipyards.
During World War II, with the mass exodus of men from their homes and from the city of Richmond and many other locations, the women were left to mind the home front. They became the driving force in building the ships, the victory ships that would go back and retrieve our men from around the world. During those war years, 737 ships were built right here in the city of Richmond. And a large part of the work was done by women. That forever changed the way women are perceived in the workforce here in the United States. The women in the workforce working out in the Richmond shipyards, wearing their uniforms, their kerchief bandanas, and carrying their lunch pails off to work every day became known collectively as Rosie the Riveter.
Every rose, and we call them Rosies because we're also celebrating the Rosie the Riveters here in Richmond. They are recycled Rosies because you take an entire Starbucks coffee cup and we cut the rim off the top and then start squishing the cup. So I show the students how to create a waist on it, how to smush it, meld it, mush it, actually even to step on it. And then to pull it back, stand back, look at it, and consider what's it going to take to make this look like a flower.
After they finished forming and shaping their beautiful roses, they stepped outside and they were able to spray paint them in silver color. So all roses looked like metal. Another dimension to our project was added by Crystal and Patricia, who brought to us not only a beautiful little construction that looked like a small house, but also the idea of public library. And that's where I could see that in the minds of my students, all pieces started coming together. There was a connection between them and different cultures. There was a connection to the city of Richmond. There was a connection to the history of Richmond, and now to different parts of community and different ways of serving the community.
Because the students had been introduced to mosaics by Daoud, they understood the concept, they knew how to use the tools and materials. They were now ready to produce their own project.
The idea of free book exchange was amazing to them. Many of them love books. They don't have many books at home. They can always borrow books from my classroom. But now there was something different, something that they can actually see on the streets of Richmond. And we started designing the mosaic pattern. We looked at the little free library from different angles. We realized that we will need to design 4 rectangular panels and 1 square for the back. And after that, the creative process started.
Now people will be able to sit at those beautiful benches and read books. I have already a lot of bilingual books that we can put in here for the Hispanic community that we have in Richmond. And it's going to be a beautiful, wonderful thing. I'm so excited.
I feel really proud for all the art we did it for all
around the library now.
You can take for the park. Yeah, thank you.
It's gonna look amazing in the park. Thank you so much for all your work.
My name is Keiko Nelson. I'm a contemporary artist. I born in Japan, Kyoto, Japan.
Another exciting project is the Peace Dove Project. And that project involves painting clear acrylic doves that are cut out by laser and then painted by the students. And each one will become part of a myriad of doves that is hung together in one place.
Her works are everywhere, from New York City to San Francisco.
I used to teaching class for the graduate student or and more artist oriented. So it's kind of very, very interesting and different. And especially 7th grade, and also culture background is very different.
We talked about symbolism. We talked about the doves that are international symbols of peace. One of the most exciting projects that Keiko introduced to the students was a new mobile, a new piece of art that would be installed in the city of Richmond. Every student was given a small acrylic peace dove, and they were asked to design it.
All the messages that are on the doves are put there by each individual that paints one of the pieces.
Installation for the heart forms hanging on the ceiling. That is a individual student voice become big.
Again, the variety of designs was endless. We had stars, music symbols, peace symbols, different colors, and flags.
I hope they can continue to do more, explore for the art. Each voice is very important.
When we are talking about merging cultures, it's very important to remember that Richmond has 3 sister cities, and one of them is Shimada, Japan. Every year, a group of youth ambassadors from Shimada comes to visit Richmond. This year, their visit was extra special because not only they visited with us and were introduced to my English learners, but they gave us a master class in origami and calligraphy. The kids were talking, sharing, working together, and some of the Japanese students were really impressed with the origami skills of my students. They need to be exposed to the people of different cultures and different backgrounds as many times as possible. I think my students were very surprised that somebody would come across the ocean to actually see their school, to see Richmond, and to talk to them. There are 2 exciting words for any middle school student. One is spray paint, and the other one is field trip.
I would like you to meet Alex Knox, and these students are all Spanish speakers.
Buenos días.
Yeah.
Alex, ¿de dónde son ustedes? De México. La mayoría.
And Honduras. And El Salvador. Who's from El Salvador?
De aquí.
Honduras. Guatemala. Mexico. Yeah. Other?
Faltamos uno.
Russia.
Okay.
By this time, the students been, I would say, even a little bit spoiled by all that extra attention and special projects. And then, on top of that, there was a public art tour. And everything been designed and prepared ahead of time thanks to Lana Hasser and thanks to the city of Richmond that prepared all those wonderful stops on the way. Our first stop was the City Hall of Richmond.
We took them on a tour of public art in the Civic Center, where they got a chance to see some of the pieces that were commissioned by the city of Richmond to enhance the Civic Center. They got to see a sculpture and a fountain, prints, paintings, murals, all kinds of things that they had never had a chance to see before.
One of the students would volunteer and interpret into Spanish, and one of the adults with the Japanese delegation interpreted into Japanese. So the communication took place on many different levels, and it was amazing to see that we all can understand each other.
So the students have learned how to make all different kinds of art: painting, mosaic, and drawing. They've learned how to create, and they've learned this from artists. The next step is the thrill of having their art shown. And the students were able to bring artwork to the mayor's office. It is now on display in the mayor's office because it was gifted to him.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking our art.
Thank you for bringing this art. It will go on the wall in the mayor's office, and we'll be very proud to have it.
Over here looking. Right.
This is a real thrill because making art is wonderful. Having other people see your art is wonderful because artwork really communicates to people in different ways. So the mayor's office was a wonderful opportunity for them.
We moved to another building on the beautiful plaza, and that was the Richmond Public Library. There was a little display with some masks. When the students realized that they were their masks, they were thrilled.
So the students all made masks, and all of our masks, students, Lavonia Dijon students, your masks will all be up on that wall. They're going to be on that wall as a big display.
Las máscaras que hicieron van a los que todavía no están listos, pero todavía no están ahí, pero cuando ya las tengan listas, las van a traer y las van a poner ahí.
I would very much like to thank the library and our librarians who are allowing our art to be here so we can see that your art is important.
We really look forward to seeing your art and having it be part of the experience of all the people who come to the Richmond Library.
So I hope that I know you're making art in Japan and putting your art in public places. This is our public art program here in Richmond. So our students now will have their work on exhibit.
My students now know the sayings, art makes you smart, and there is art in your heart. The heart of art in Richmond is Richmond Art Center, and everybody knows that building with a leaping big fish, Guillermo.
Clay can be both functional, like a pot or a plate, or it can be sculptural. Of course, you have a tradition of ceramics. What I love to just share about a pot or a cup, which you may know or not know, is when you look at a cup or a pot, it has a language that is the same as our body. And I love this. So, what would this part be called? The foot, right? And this is the belly.
Esa la panza.
And this here, that is the lip. So objects that we use that reflect our body. I love that.
When our tour group left City Hall, we headed on our bus right down to Harbor Way and to the Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Park. The park rangers were expecting us at the visitor center, and we had a special gift to deliver. After enjoying the exhibits, we all went downstairs where Ranger Matt Holmes invited us to join him with a special group of the original Rosies.
Welcome to our classroom. These are my friends, the Rosies and Roger.
My name is Marion Nguyen. I came out in 1944 after I graduated from high school and was a pipe welder and worked 11 months.
The students are learning English by studying art. So they made a special art piece that they wanted to bring and leave here for you. And we'd like to be hanging it up. And it's not finished, almost finished. And we want to see, please come forward.
Oh, isn't that pretty? Did you guys do this? Yeah.
Other students,
That's pretty, isn't it?
So we call these our Rosies, and they're made special. They are, just like we've been talking about your generation and the work that you did, these students are learning. Let me turn it this way, may I? So the students, this is from their generation, and one of the icons of this generation are the Starbucks coffee cups and all the coffee shops. So, and we're learning, you helped us take care of our earth, our world in so many ways. The students are learning to take care of their world by recycling. So these are our recycled roses. And you can see they're very industrial. They have the nuts and the bolts. And we were thinking about you when they did that. They look like stones. They look like stones. We thought they maybe would look like metal. To thank you, to recognize the welding and the riveting that you did. But they're really made out of coffee cups. So they're all paper.
We thank you very much.
How many students, if you make them, if you need roses, stand up.
Come on, artists.
All the students need roses.
Thank you for having us here. When I first came in, I couldn't speak because I was in tears. I'm from Russia. I'm from the Soviet Union. You know that we have veterans in our classes when I was a child, and I was a 7th grader in 1975 when we celebrated 30th anniversary of the Great Victory. This year, it will be 70 years of big victory. And our countries were together in that big war. Yes. And I will be very happy to teach my students about this part of, very important part of the history. And we will plant a victory garden in our school garden. And you are very welcome to visit us when we will have an opening later this spring.
I'll help make that happen. That sounds like a day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here for our Rosies. And a special thanks to Lana and Yulia for bringing down these diverse groups of young people who can learn from this generation how to come together and meet the challenge of their time. So hopefully you guys can draw some lessons.
We were able to make that connection between the generations and between school and reality, school and museum, school and the national park.
The power of art is to be able to speak without words, to be able to communicate your emotions, how you see the world, how you feel about the world without words. And this is a very, very powerful medium. You can convey many things through the arts: anger, love, peacefulness, all kinds of things through the arts. And it gives each student or each artist, because we're all artists, the ability to say something non-verbally. The beauty of this particular project has been that the underlying theme is really about peace, and it's about learning, and it's about creating and expression, self-expression. So what children end up with as a result is a great feeling of pride, a great feeling that they have communicated something about who they are and that they have value and other people see their value.
One of my personal habits is to look for the beauty around me. The Navajo Indian poem, known as the Beauty Way Blessing, has informed my life. And I live regularly by looking for positive energy, for beauty all around me, in the rooms that I'm in the gardens where I walk, in the spaces around the community. What I've been wanting to teach the students around me is to look for the beauty. As the poem says, I walk with beauty before me, behind me, above me, and it ends with the blessing, walk with beauty all your days. My work with Emerging Cultures English Through Art project has given me the opportunity to work with my friend Yulia Solovyeva, the teacher at Lavonia Dijon, and with artists who I appreciate, who I admire, whose work inspires me and many people around the city of Richmond on a daily basis as we see their art in public places. My goal for this project was to introduce the students to these artists as they are learning English, as they're learning to take their place in our community, as they're learning to become community servants, as they are themselves providing beautiful places. They're providing art that will be displayed around the city. My goal is that they find the peace that comes from being surrounded by beauty, and that they find their place in the city of Richmond.
The beauty of all of our various cultures, the beauty of all of the hues and colors of the cultures, and our habit patterns, how they all merge and they all come from one particular source. And when I see the children out here doing this one project, a multitude of children from different areas, different ethnicities, different races, different backgrounds, but all behind one common cause, to do one thing. And that's an example for me of how we should be, period, here, and what Richmond is really all about. And not only just Richmond, the sister city in Japan, everywhere in the world we should be about this. The divisiveness that we have, things like this, breaks those walls down.
I'm so glad to see you all out here. I heard some noise this morning, looked out the window and I said, oh no, my great-granddaughter doesn't live here anymore and they're finishing the park. So I need to go over and see what they're actually doing. And I want to say thank you so much for all your efforts and things that you're doing in this community, because this really will make a difference. It helps with beautification. And my mother used to always say, take care of what you have. And she used to sweep dirt. And I said, why do you sweep dirt? Sweep a pattern in the dirt. She said, because it's dirt, it doesn't have to look like dirt. And so I want to thank you for your efforts to making this happen.